This is the Lichtman Live post show. Not maybe. Definitely the greatest post show that's ever existed on planet Earth. I want to shout out some people in the chat. Arush Narsina, Elijah the Wolf, Early Riser, first time on the after show. Heck yeah. Patrick Murray, BJM, In Your Face New Yorkers here. I Am Not Your Cat, Tim M, Isaac Cannon, Suzanne AP. Richard C says, where can I submit lecture topics? That's a good question. I think maybe people are just emailing him, but maybe we'll do like a formal community post about it, and we could start gleaning and collecting people's lecture ideas. In Your Face New Yorker says, tell your dad I'm a woman, not a dude. In Your Face New Yorker, I was about to say something, and it just slipped my mind, unfortunately. Do you have a link to help the whales? I don't personally. I would just look up Paul Watson. I forgot what his let's look up what his stuff is. He has an organization. But I can't remember what it's called. Paul Watson. Sea Shepherds. That's his. Oh, nobody's seeing this, are they? Crap. There he is. Paul Watson. His organization is called Sea Shepherd Conservatory. I can't speak right now. You can see it on screen. Jeez Louise. Here it is. The Sea Shepherds. And you can donate there. One-time donation, monthly donation, if you want to help the whales. Hi, Sam. Why did you ask your dad that spoon question? Love the show. Because sometimes I'm just trying to interject a little, levity, a little humor into the show. Was that my best line I've ever given? No. I'll be the first to admit that. JJ says, Democrats need to have a 21st century version of FDR's fireside chat, a weekly stream Q&A with a panel, perhaps AOC, Pete Buttigieg, etc., to counter MAGA's policies. Trump would never do this. I totally agree with you. Hey, Sam, why did you reword my question leaving out the bit about Civil War? I believe the moderators did that. We have a ton of great moderators. We're working on new systems where now I can focus on more conversating and I don't have to work on choosing the question. So I literally just read the question. That was the question that I saw there. I didn't see anything about Civil War. What, Keeks? Do you think Dems like AOC and Jasmine Crockett will be the new faces? I sure hope so. I know AOC just lost her committee bid, right? AOC committee. Yeah. Yeah, Jerry Connolly beat her for the oversight committee, which was disappointing and not a good sign of her being in the future. But that's internal Dem stuff. I think she's very popular with voters, and hopefully that'll carry her to being the new face. I think she's already a pretty big face, to be honest with you, within the Democratic Party. Freddie says, I've never heard AOC say anything intelligent. Stop shoving her in our faces. That's nuts to say AOC's never said anything intelligent. She's a very smart, intelligent woman. She's good at speaking. Get out of here, Freddie. Hey, Sam, did you see that interview with that South Dakota farmer who said half his workforce is unsubscribed? I think you mean undocumented. If they get deported, the shelves would be empty within 2 days. I didn't. Let me see if I can find it. South Dakota farmer. Here it is. Freaking ad.
Guys, I'm about to...
Let's get straight to the...
How many hours does this go on?
It's 24 hours a day.
So you need workers like this year-round?
Yes, yes.
South Dakota dairy farmer Greg Mose supports Donald Trump and his pick of his governor, Kristi Noem, to lead the Department of Homeland Security.
The sheer number of illegal migrants coming into this country has made it so that every state is now a border state.
In this sparsely populated, landlocked state, these three South Dakotans have strong views of their governor and see what a potential Secretary Noem would mean to the rest of the country. The dairy farmer is drawn to what launched Noem into national politics, her pledge of a MAGA-style crackdown on illegal immigration. But it's a tricky issue for Mose.
What percentage of your workers are not U.S. born?
Probably half.
About half?
Yeah.
I don't understand men like him. Men who rely on this workforce and then support MAGA-style deportation. I just can't, I don't get it.
Do you know what the immigration status is of any of your workers?
I don't know.
Do you ask?
Well, can you ask? We have the right papers on file, and they're there is there.
Are you worried if there were a mass roundup of undocumented migrants that you might lose workers? You might not have enough workers.
How are they going to do that? Nobody will be filling the shelves. Nobody will be producing food. Within 2 days, we will not have food. There will not be food anywhere.
2 days?
Yes.
Does Governor Noem understand that?
I would think so. I'm pretty sure.
It sounds like you have a lot of faith that they're not going to do what they're saying.
That's pretty much what I'm thinking. So we have to trust in our officials that are put in place.
I don't get the logic of people like this. I don't even want to keep watching it because it just, I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me, and I can't wrap my mind around it. No, I want to keep watching. I'm so confused.
I think if they follow through, he's going to lose a lot of workers.
Unlike the dairy farmer, Boyd Gurno, chairman of the Lower Brule Sioux tribe, believes Noem's mass deportation threats.
So this dairy farmer votes for Noem and Trump because he likes their immigration stance, and then says, "I don't think they're actually going to follow through with it." I don't get it.
Relationship between all 9 of South Dakota's tribes and Noem completely broken. All the tribes have banned her from walking onto native land. That's an estimated 15% of the governor's own state. The governor of the state, Kristi Noem.
Yeah.
She can stand where we are.
Yes. No, she can't cross the line. She's forbidden from our lands.
She's banned from Native American lands in North Dakota? That's crazy.
The governor of your state,
yes,
cannot come onto reservation.
Right.
How did this happen?
Basically, she said some very derogatory and untrue things about cartel holding up shop on reservations.
The cartels have a presence on several of South Dakota's tribal reservations. They have been successful in recruiting tribal members to join their criminal activity.
It's not true.
Is this about race?
I think it is, yes.
Why do you think that?
I mean, yeah, I think at the end of the day, this is all. The reason why it doesn't make sense logically is because it's just about race. And it's about racism, and it's about xenophobia, and it's about the other.
Did she say anything about cartels being in Rapid City or Sioux Falls?
That are primarily white.
Yes. No, she didn't. She targeted us.
The tribe chairman has seen a lifetime of insults. Every sign marking the start of Lower Brule Sioux tribal land has bullet holes. Noem's cartel charge was one insult too much.
It's dehumanizing. I just don't know if we really ever have been accepted as human beings sometimes.
250 miles away in another corner of South Dakota, a community lies broken. And the water came how high?
About to the base level of the house. So you see that wood?
Floods this summer ravaged Dennis Johnson's neighborhood in the southeast corner of the state.
The National Guard was not here. They were not deployed. They weren't here to help.
In order for the National Guard to be activated, the county has to request it, and I make a decision if it's warranted. That's usually typically a very crisis situation, and the National Guard is extremely expensive.
But she did send the state's National Guard to the U.S.-Mexico border, about 1,200 miles away, 5 times.
I got a gnome from South Dakota.
Did she really?
elevating her national political profile. If Noem is confirmed as DHS secretary, she will oversee FEMA and respond to the nation's disasters.
It's for anti-Noem.
Anger still seethes that she didn't use the South Dakota Guard to directly help South Dakotans.
They've been down to the Texas border several times.
Why do people keep voting for these people? I don't get it. If they're doing things that are so clearly fucked up, why? I just don't get how these people retain their power.
Seeing our money for them to go down there to help a situation that's not affecting us here directly.
But South Dakota is a Republican stronghold, and even as we stood at Dennis Johnson's mangled home, the signs of this family's faith in Noem holds tight as she...
Jim Smallman says, racism is so small. I've never even heard anything racist, and I've lived in the 5th biggest city in our country for 30 years. I've never seen or even heard of a racist event. Then I cannot explain this logic of this dairy farmer then. If it's not just racism, because his logic is, I support Noem, I support Trump, I support their immigration policy, but I also hire undocumented workers, I don't check their immigration status, and I also do not believe that they're going to come through with their planned immigration policies. So that logic is so all over the map. What else explains it?
eyes federal leadership.
I would rather have her standing strong on the issues of abortion and traditional families and things like that than whether the National Guard was here to help me clean up.
That's more important than what happened in your house.
Yeah.
Did you hear that? What that guy said?
Leadership.
I would rather have her standing strong on the issues of abortion and traditional families and things like that than whether the National Guard was here to help me clean up.
That's more important than what happened to your house.
Yeah.
That's kind of nuts. How can you raise a traditional family if your house is destroyed and you can't sustain a traditional family when, yeah, right? Like, and like, you can also find candidates who do believe in those things, who are not terrible people, who aren't, I don't know.
Governor Noem's office did not respond to our repeated request for comment. But as you mentioned, Aaron, she was on Capitol Hill today. Our story posted this morning, and she was asked about our story as she met with senators in the hallway by reporters. She said it was, quote, absolutely not true that she had neglected the state, the flood victims after that disaster, and that, quote, we're continuing to work through the FEMA process to bring them all the resources they need. She did not address other aspects of our reporting.
I guess that dude just answered my question right there. He's more worried about traditional families and abortion than he is about having a home to live in. Crazy. Earthsky says, why did you block me? Because I talk about Palestine? I didn't block you. I don't know what you're talking about. Lex says, makes no sense. I really want to understand how they have this level of cognitive dissonance. I would love to sit down with that farmer and talk to him for like an hour. Because like in these type of quick news packaged interviews, you can't really boil down into what he's thinking. You can hear his thoughts, but again, I don't understand it. So I just would want to talk to him and try to understand how he's come to all of these logical conflicts. And Monster says, amazing how people can be brainwashed to vote against their own interests. Yeah. Am I taking calls tonight? No, probably not. I'm not gonna take calls every single post show. I'll kind of throw it in here and there. I felt like maybe some people who like to chat, felt left out, and I don't want to just do call-ins every single time. I want to be able to read chat, because it's hard to read chat and listen to the callers at the same time. Which NFL team do you hate the most? The Pittsburgh Steelers. Has Allan lost viewers since the election? Yes, quite a bit. Do I know if my dad has ever read the dystopian book, Christian Nation? I'm not sure. Did you ever doubt your father's prediction before the election? No, not really, to be honest with you. I mean, I obviously knew anything could happen, but I personally thought Harris was going to win, and I thought his analysis of the keys was good, so not really. I mean, I don't know. Towards the end, I feel like maybe I was slipping a little bit just because I just felt like the Democrats were doing such a bad job. I was just getting so frustrated. I don't know if I thought that meant they were going to lose, but I was sort of. If you go back to my lives right before, you would probably sense this. You could probably tell a sense of losing of faith. Michael Nightwolf says, I have a friend who voted for Trump. I don't necessarily think they are stupid. I'm not saying Trump voters are stupid. I'm just saying some of their logic doesn't make sense to me, and I would like to sit down with them and try to boil down their logic a little bit. How much of a blow was this committee loss episode to AOC's future prospects? Like I said earlier, I think it's a blow, but it's an internal Democrat vote. I think she's still very popular with the people, and I think the people will help her rise. And the internal Democratic politics doesn't matter as much. What are my thoughts on the NFL and NBA handling politics? I think any athlete should be able to say or do anything within the First Amendment when it comes to politics. I don't like the idea of trying to censor certain people or not other people or everybody. Whether you're an athlete, NBA, you should be able to talk about anything in regards to politics. I think, obviously, the Colin Kaepernick thing was nuts. I think Joey, but whoever did it, who did the MAGA hat again? I can't remember. NFL player, MAGA hat. Nick Bosa. I think the way he did it was just obnoxious, but if he wants to wear a MAGA hat, he should be able to wear a MAGA hat. I guess, like, some of these leagues have certain, like, dress codes, so I guess if this was, like, going against the dress code, that's a different question. But overall, yeah, I think athletes should be able to say what they want about politics. Tom Brady had a MAGA hat in his locker. Yeah, I sort of remember that. What effect have you seen the manosphere affecting young men? I think especially in Gen Z and Gen Alpha, it's really seemed to affect them. I feel like they've gone backwards, especially from my millennial generation, in their sort of thoughts about the world and about sexism and misogyny. It's sad to see. What do you think about Vance inviting Subway Strangler Daniel Penny to the Army-Navy game? I have to say, I'm not super anti-Daniel Penny. I haven't followed the case super closely, but from what I can tell, maybe he used too much force. But if there was a man on the subway threatening people, I think that's a form of self-defense. Kyle Fishman says, it's impossible to debate a Trumper because they dismiss mainstream legit sources as being biased. Yeah, that's a fair point. I wouldn't really even want to debate a Trumper. I just want to like have a conversation with them and try to boil down what they're talking about. That's not how self-defense law works. Yeah, I mean, obviously I don't know the exact law of it, and I don't know, especially in the state of New York, what the laws are around it. But from what I've seen, I don't think this Daniel Penny guy is like a horrible person. Check out the case. Okay, I'll maybe. I don't know. I also don't really care about it that much, to be honest with you. But I don't know. Sammy, who's your pick in 2028 to run against a MAGA candidate? I don't know. Mr. Avocado says, funny how the right is so upset about the UHC CEO shooting, but are once again silent on yesterday's school shooting. Yeah, I mean, it's sickening how everything in this country, your take on it depends on your political party, especially if you're a public figure. It's really sickening, and I'm sick of it. Hence being sickened. I have to watch the video of the Daniel Penny guy. Let me see if I can find one. But it's just so annoying, like that exact thing of like, this guy gets brought to the Army Navy game by the vice president just because it fits the vice president's political agenda. It's just annoying.
Former Marine who put a threatening passenger in a chokehold on a New York subway has been acquitted in the man's death. 26-year-old Daniel Penny was cleared of criminally negligent homicide.
Okay, he was also cleared. Like a jury found him innocent. He was acquitted. So that says something to me.
Charges in the 2023 death of Jordan Neely. Penny claimed that he was protecting other passengers on the train when he held Neely in a chokehold for about 6 minutes. A medical examiner determined Neely died due to the compression on his neck, even though Neely was conscious when arrested. Neely's family claims that he was acting erratically because of a mental health crisis.
Six minutes. I don't know.
At some point, you take out your earbuds.
Oh, God, Janine Pirro. I don't want to hear her.
This week, we're hosting a free trading and investing workshop right here in Los Angeles. Inside this workshop,
I don't think anybody is uncomfortable.
Look, here's the thing. I don't think anybody deserves to be killed for acting erratically on a subway. Let me make that clear first.
Let me tell you, I take the train every so often, but it's scary. And I know that I've heard people say, when you take the train, prepare yourself. Be protected. You don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I agree. It's like, I don't know, at what point do we just succumb to like the insanity of our public transit systems? You know what I mean?
To Whoopi's point of whether or not he had a drink, don't be distracted. Here's the issue. I don't want to talk about this as if it's left or if it's right, and the left is celebrating or the right is celebrating and the left isn't. The problem is it's a failure on everyone's part. She wasn't wrong in that, to me, in my opinion. I feel like you can't try to talk about making America great again when we have people walking on the subway, sitting on the subway in New York City. Well, I have been told several times, if you don't pay attention, someone will really attack you. That's the first thing I was told when I moved here. If that's just a rite of passage of being a citizen of New York City, it's crazy. One second. And the reality is that it's true. I hear grown men talk to me about how they have to protect themselves when they're on the subway and how they have to avoid trouble. Say what you want. I think at the end of the day, this man did what he thought was right. Did he set out to kill somebody? No. But this whole thing, and I don't know his intent, but I assume that was not his intent. But this whole case was full of crap from the beginning. It's stupid. I don't want to even make it left or right. We're talking about humanity. We're talking about people who are sick. We're talking about something that happens every single day in New York City, and we do nothing about it.
Daniel Penny is a hero. I agree with virtually everything Carrie said, except for
I don't know about if Daniel Penny is a hero. I don't know about that.
Except for one quibble, and that is, you said there were failures on all sides. There's a lot of failures here. The only person who did not fail was Penny. Penny was a good Samaritan. He stood up for his fellow citizens in a moment when a lot of people would have not been able to, would have not wanted to, just could not have summoned the courage or will to do so. And so thank God for the good Samaritans. I think the biggest failure here, honestly, Alvin Bragg is a disgrace.
Oh my God, Scott Jennings. This guy is such a joke. Why do they have this guy on CNN still? This is not news. This is just people telling their opinion.
Resign. This man was a hero. He had his name and his life dragged through the mud.
Does he actually talk, or is it just other people's opinions?
Well, I live in the East Village in Manhattan, so I take the subway multiple times a day. In this instance, I was coming from school. I got out of class around 2:15, and I took I was at J Street Metro Tech, took the Uptown F train. At 2nd Avenue, a man came on, stumbled on, he appeared to be on drugs. The doors closed, and he ripped his jacket off and threw it at the people sitting down to my left. I was listening to music at the time, and he was yelling, so I took my headphones out to hear what he was yelling. And the three main threats that he repeated over and over was, I'm gonna kill you, I'm prepared to go to jail for life, and I'm willing to die. You know, this was a scary situation, and Mr. Neely came on, he was threatening, I'm 6'2", and he was taller than me. So and there's a common misconception that Marines don't get scared. We're actually taught one of our core values is courage, and courage is not the absence of fear, but how you handle fear. And, you know, I was scared for myself, but I looked around, I saw women and children. He was yelling in their faces, saying these threats. I couldn't just sit still. Some people say that I was holding on to Mr. Neely for 15 minutes. This is not true. I mean, between stops, it was only a couple minutes. So the whole interaction lasted less than 5 minutes. Some people say I was trying to choke him to death, which is also not true. I was trying to restrain him. You can see in the video, there's a clear rise and fall of his chest, indicating that he's breathing. I'm trying to restrain him from him being able to carry out the threats. And then some people say that this was about race, which is absolutely ridiculous. I didn't see a black man.
I don't disagree with most of the stuff that this guy is saying.
And threatening passengers. I saw a man threatening passengers, a lot of whom were people of color. A man who helped restrain Mr. Neely was a person of color. And a few days after the incident, I read in the papers that a woman of color came out and called me a hero. I don't believe that I'm a hero, but she was one of those people that I was trying to protect. We were all scared. Mr. Neely was yelling in these passengers' faces, and they looked terrified. The reason why there was no video at the start of the altercation was because people were too afraid getting away from him, and the videos didn't start until they saw the situation was under control. I knew I had to act, and I acted in a way that would protect the other passengers, protect myself, and protect Mr. Neely. I used this hole to restrain him, and I did this by leaving my hand on top of his head.
I don't know. I think most of what he's saying seems legit. He held him too long, maybe. I don't know. The issue with this whole thing I have is that, again, the politicization of it. The right is heralding this guy as some sort of hero. The vice president taking him to Army Navy games, and the left is painting him as a murderer. I don't think either are true, if you ask me. Discretion is also the better part of valor. I don't know. In self-defense classes, one of the first things, especially in jiu-jitsu, is they teach you like a reverse choke. You know what I mean? Because that's one of the best self-defense methods, because it renders the person immobile. I'm not saying police should do that. I'm not saying police should do that. I think police should be trained better than that. But your average person, or even a Marine who knows basic self-defense, that's something that you go to. I've done jiu-jitsu, yes. Prime Minister Bette Midler said there's got to be more nuance to these discussions about this than he is good or bad, right? Right, that's what I'm saying. It's like, I don't think this guy's like a hero. I think he might have gone too far in his chokehold. I don't think he's a murderer or whatever he was charged with. In psych hospital, you don't restrain around the neck. I agree. In a hospital, you shouldn't restrain somebody around the neck. But we're talking about a public situation where somebody is untrained, is not a professional to deal with these situations. Sometimes you have to just enact basic self-defense mechanisms, and a chokehold is one of them. Didn't other passengers tell him to stop choking him? I don't know. It was murder. The guy was acting erratically, but it was shown he was not presenting any threat to anyone on the train. Screaming that he's going to kill people on the train. I mean, that is a violent threat. I mean, it's not a physical threat, but it's still a violent threat. Sam, you can fight Hassan in a cage fight. Defend your dad's honor. That'd be hilarious. The guy kept choking him after he was not moving. Well, obviously he's not going to, like, I don't know. He just said that the guy's chest was going up and down, so he was breathing. I mean, what do you mean by not moving? He was limp? I mean, he survived the chokehold and he died later, right? So I'm not sure what you mean by that. And again, I don't know, like, if we're going to, like, judge Trump based off of a jury of his peers, you know, why don't we judge this guy off a jury of his peers? New York should come up with new policies for the mentally ill. I agree. I think our government has failed us and has set up this situation to happen. There's too many mentally ill people on public transit. In Los Angeles, there's too many mentally ill people living on the street. There's not enough rehabilitation services for them. And you're bound to end up in a tragic situation like this. This is why I don't call this guy a hero. And that's why it's, again, the right wing is so nuts for it. It's like, this is a tragic situation. A young man having a mental health crisis died, you know? There's no hero in that story. Americans treat homeless people worse than any other group of people. I don't know how you assess that. Todd Boothby says the jury gave the answer. Right, that's what I'm saying is like, if we're going to trust juries and our judicial system, I know there's problems with it, but generally speaking, he was acquitted. Missy says, it's scary because there's no number to call when a homeless individual has a mental episode. 911, you get the cops, not a medical professional. I agree. Which is, again, the Democratic messaging, the left messaging behind all of like the defund the police was so bad. It shouldn't have been about defunding the police. It should have been about creating new services for things like mental health episodes. Tim says, totally agree. We do everything we can to help people with mental illness. We need to do everything we can to help people with mental illness. This started under Reagan closing mental institutions. I agree. Brennan Ziegler says, this is different than the Kyle Rittenhouse situation. I don't think Daniel Penny intended on killing him, whereas Rittenhouse actually intended on killing someone. Well, I don't know about that. I do know that this guy, Daniel Penny, found himself in a situation, and Kyle Rittenhouse he drove a car to seek out a violent situation. That's a big difference in my mind. Denver has mental health professionals that go out on calls. It's a new program. Well, that's great. I'm curious to see how it works. Let me see. Denver. I don't know. I also just think like the left saying like this was about race. It's just like, guys, you're feeding into the woke hysteria with that kind of rhetoric. Denver mental health call. No, what should I look up? Mental health program? I don't know. I'm not going to get whatever. I'm not going to be able to find it. Self-defense doctrine fails when you use force in excess of the threat and continue to use it even after the person is clearly disabled. The question is, if he releases the guy, does he just get up and go and, hit him or hit somebody else? It's like, how do you know when the situation is cleared? That's my question. What do you mean when you say it couldn't have been worse with Biden? He's 0 for 2. I meant Biden couldn't have done any worse than Kamala. Yes, he could have maybe gotten less votes, lost more states, but there are two metrics in which we gauge the presidential election: the popular vote and the electoral college, and she lost both. Sam, are you familiar with what happened with Nancy Mace last week? Do you think she was being held accountable for what she did? Failing. Yeah, I did hear about that. I don't know. She's such a joke. Like, someone shook her hand aggressively and she wanted to press charges and wore a sling. She's just a joke. Kyle Rittenhouse didn't seek a violent situation. He went there to protect a business and was violently, repeatedly attacked. Yes, but he was more of a vigilante justice person in my mind, because again, the business didn't contact him, the police didn't contact him and ask him to come and protect their business. He made the independent decision to go there with a gun. That's very different in my mind. Aren't there other ways to restrain someone other than a chokehold? Yeah, there are. Sam, you mentioned you box and now jiu-jitsu. Do you do mixed martial arts? I do, yes. Mimi says, I think NYPD calling him a hero is a good case to defund the police. Basically straight out saying it's okay to murder citizens if you think it's indicated, which is what they do all the time. Again, I already said it. I don't like the whole hero. Oh, I still have my headphones on. God damn it. I always do that. I always freaking do that, bruh. The business did contact him? No freaking way. The business contacted a 17-year-old to come guard their... Who is this? Stars and Stripes? You have any... That's not true. That's just not true. I'm not doing Discord calls tonight, no. Just reading the chat. I kind of want to see this video now. Oh, I'm not signed in.
This video was recorded in the Broadway Lafayette subway station in Manhattan last May 1st at 2:24 p.m. The woman filming, Yvette Rosario, has just witnessed a struggle in her subway car. The man in the white t-shirt being held on the floor is Jordan Neely.
Daniel Perry looks very calm to me in this.
He is 30 years old, homeless, and diagnosed with schizophrenia. He boarded the train at the previous stop. Witnesses say Neely entered the car and immediately began threatening passengers, saying he was, quote, ready to die and would kill a motherfucker. Daniel Penny, a 24-year-old student and former Marine from Long Island, took Neely to the ground and put him in a chokehold. He's the blonde guy there, restraining Neely. These 6 minutes will change everything for both men. Neely will be rushed to the hospital and declared dead. Penny will go to a police precinct where his statement will kick off a legal case that's ongoing right now in Manhattan. It's one that could land him in prison for 15 years. This case divided America almost immediately. On one side, those who say Penny is a racially motivated murderer, a vigilante who thought he could put his hands on a poor black man because he was poor and black. On the other, those who believe Penny is a hero who protected his fellow...
Right. I kind of feel like neither of which of these sentiments are real or true.
...riders in the face of soaring violent crime and inaction from government and police. Over the past month, I've spent day after day in a Manhattan courtroom covering the trial of Daniel Penny. I've read hundreds of pages of Jordan Neely's medical records and seen images of his autopsy. I've seen Penny's mother hold back tears on the stand as she vouched for her son's kindness. I've heard from witnesses, police, and the medical examiner. But as the trial comes to a close, basic questions still remain about exactly what happened on that subway train. It all comes back to these 6 minutes when Penny and Neely struggled on the floor of a subway car. Prosecutors say Neely's last voluntary movement was at this moment, 2:28 p.m. 51 seconds later, Penny let go of him. The medical examiner says Neely died a short time later from a chokehold, compression of his neck. What you're about to see is body cam footage from police arriving at the scene.
New York City 911, you need police, fire, or medical? New York City 911, you need police, fire, medical. New York City 911, you need police, fire, medical. Hi, we need an ambulance and cops. We just need a cop at Broadway, that's here street. Someone's attacking here. That's great. This is inside the train station? Yes. Okay, Broadway Lafayette, uptown, downtown platform? Uptown. Okay. And this is the F, right? Yeah. Male or female being attacked? I don't know. He's trying to attack everybody. Oh, a guy's trying to do it. Okay, give me further description. Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Indian? He's black. What color is he? They're holding them down. They're holding him down right now. How many people? There's just two. There's one man holding white man holding it down, holding the homeless guy down. Okay. Any weapons? Anybody injured at this time? No, nobody. Okay, they're coming as we speak.
We get on the this one. You came like the train. You got anything on that? That? You got anything on that? No, I don't know. I just yo, my man. I just put him out. Yo. You say you just put him out? Right. Oh. You hit a bus.
In this moment, before Neely's body was taken from the train, before Penny went to the police station, the story had effectively been written. Archetypes had already been cast. In the following days, a New York Times opinion headline read, quote, "Making people uncomfortable can now get you killed." On MSNBC.
Come on, dude. That's a lot more than making people uncomfortable. It's threatening to kill people on a train.
Joy Reid said, "The one person who was in danger obviously was Jordan Neely." Representative
I don't disagree with that.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez claimed, long before Penny was even arrested, that Neely had been, quote, murdered. Representative Jamal Bowman went even further, calling Neely's death an execution. But then there is the body camera footage, the relief that witnesses, fellow passengers, told police they felt when Penny took charge.
You want to know what happened?
Yeah, I can tell you what happened.
Yeah, what happened?
He was there, right? I was in before him. Then he came in, like, he put, like, his hand so he could come in, right? Okay. I guess he was pissed or something, but I looked at him, right? And then he started taking off his sweater, dummy hard, and then he threw it. And then he told, like, everyone that he had, like, a rough day and that he don't care what happens today. He don't care about going to jail, but that someone's dying today.
Bro, move. He can come to me.
Was that a fight at all? No, he came on the train. I was sitting right there. I was sitting next to everybody that was moving. That was the last one I was sitting. He came on the train. He was like, "Yo, I'm looking for food. I'm looking for this shit." Like, he was ready to risk it all. Basically, he was like basically, he's gonna try to people out to hurt somebody. He was on the floor. He's like, "I'm ready to hurt somebody. I'm ready to do this." And he was right here. Like I said, I don't think he did nothing wrong. Everybody moved, and he was about to start. He was about to start hitting people. He came in and he tried to just while the cop was coming. They took mad. Everybody, I was falling out home. Yeah. They took mad on the cop. He was trying to resist him on somebody's game. They took mad on.
Okay.
He was on the train. He was right there. I see him take over. He got on the train. He dropped his phone. He's like, "I'm ready to hurt anybody. I'm hungry. I'm ready to go back to Market Garden." And dude got up, he saw he was about to hurt somebody, and he got up and he was trained him. And he was trying to hurt somebody. I don't know. You saw everything on everything? No, you saw everything, okay? This young lady right here.
Yeah.
Okay, what did you see?
What did I see? I was sitting up there, I heard the young man that's on the floor saying, you know, "Hey, I'm willing to die, you know? I'll do anything. I'm willing to die. I'll go to jail. I don't care. I don't care." And he was saying it so loud that everyone turned around. So the young man, he got belligerent and he tackled him down. He was tackled in the brown jacket, the one that just went past.
The guy in the brown jacket?
Yeah, you got to see the guy in the brown jacket. Yeah.
You got to for the guys in the freak team. You got a brown jacket, tan jacket. Take him to the freak right now.
And take it away? So he took him to the ground? The guy with the brown jacket took him to the ground.
Yeah, he took him around and not a hard chokehold, just enough to secure him, and the guy fought. And he kept holding him, all right? And then that's when everybody totally realized what was going on. And I think these guys on drugs. You know, because when he came in, he was unbelievably off the charts. He scared the living daylights out of him.
How did he bring him down to the ground? Like he picked him up and throw him on the ground?
I think he stood up, grabbed him, turned him around, and put him to the ground.
All right.
Those witnesses could never have known anything about Daniel Penny and Jordan Neely when Neely rushed the train car shouting that he was ready to die. They had not heard the words of his Aunt Carolyn, who later said the system had failed him. No one knew that his mother had been bludgeoned to death when he was a teen, that he had aged out of the foster care system onto the streets. But they also didn't know that he had been diagnosed with schizophrenia and was in and out of mental health treatment. And they didn't know that he had been arrested 42 times. At this point, despite all the scientific evidence I've seen in court, the question of life and death becomes almost metaphysical. Testifying, the medical examiner conceded that she didn't wait for full toxicology results before declaring Neely's death a homicide. An expert for the defense said other factors, including schizophrenia, sickle cell condition that can make it harder to breathe, and the drug K2 in his system, all could have played a part. The remarkable thing about this case is how many pieces of evidence cut both ways. For the people who have been following the case, few, if any, are undecided on how they feel about it. And most people I've spoken with at the trial say the evidence presented in court has changed absolutely nothing for them.
What?
If, at the start of this trial, you thought of Penny as a racist vigilante, a not guilty verdict won't change your mind.
The dude's not a racist vigilante. Come on.
It will just prove that the system is racist too.
He's also not a hero. Again.
And if you went into this trial...
And I totally agree that this poor young man was the victim of the system failing for him, like this announcer just said.
Trial thinking of Penny as a hero, a guilty verdict is yet more proof of progressive politics getting in the way of justice. A jury of Daniel Penny's peers will decide his fate. But so many Americans have already made up their minds.
This was a lynching.
This was a terrifying situation.
The one person who was in danger obviously was Jordan Neely.
Jordan Neely committing crimes willy-nilly.
42.
God, I hate Vivek Ramaswamy. Jordan Neely committing crimes willy-nilly.
Press.
Doesn't mean he deserves to die.
To live.
To step in as a good Samaritan and protect people.
Hey, OC, what do you think about Governor DeSantis calling Penny a good Samaritan?
I think you should read a Bible.
Daniel Penny is a hero.
It is unfortunate what
This is exactly the issue with this case. This supercut of all these dumbasses fucking saying bullshit
happened. But thank God he was there.
There'll be no justice. There'll be no peace.
Okay, honestly, here's my take on this. This is an example of the system failing for this young man, of our current law and order, law enforcement system failing for this whole situation and for our public safety. And it's a tragic situation. I don't think Daniel Penny is some racist murderer. I don't think Jordan Neely I don't have anything to say about Jordan Neely, actually. I agree that his situation is tragic. But, like, what are people supposed to do when they feel threatened? Maybe the force was excessive, and maybe under the law, the self-defense argument doesn't work in this case. Susie says, this is not a tragedy. Why do you say that? I don't think Daniel Penny was out to kill this guy, even when he had him in a chokehold. I think what Joy Reid said is true. I mean, this guy, Jordan Neely, this guy needed help. And yeah, it's sad that, all these political figures are using it for their own, bullshit rhetoric. Especially this guy. This guy just, I don't know what it is about Vivek. He just annoys the shit out of me. A tragedy is an accident. He had him like that for 6 minutes. When the poor guy was dead, he dropped him like nothing and then left. I don't necessarily think a tragedy is necessarily an accident. I don't agree with that definition. I mean, I agree that he probably held him for too long. I don't, one thing that you do in MMA is you do choke people out until they pass out. That's something you do. Obviously, it's not comparable because someone can tap out, etc. I think he was probably thinking if he passes out, that's probably better for the situation. I don't think he was thinking he was going to kill him. Again, I don't know. I'm just speculating. I think I probably agree. 6 minutes is too long. Look up the self-defense doctrine. I believe you, Joseph. I'm not. If I said that earlier, look, this was I didn't know much about the case, so this is an evolving, real-time analysis from me. So if I said something about, I agree that this probably doesn't fall under self-defense at a certain point. Thank you, episodes from Bushwhacking. They say, this is good. I haven't seen your live yet, but you hit on some really serious topics we need to address. I agree. The media is obsessed with white people killing black people. They always make it the #1 national story. Yeah, there is an obsession over violence in the media, and when it's black versus white, yeah, it gets a lot of attention, there's no doubt. But I think that's also because of the history of this country. This doesn't happen in a vacuum necessarily. After George Floyd, everybody should be leery of chokeholds. I don't disagree with that. I don't know. What would you do in that situation? If you were like this guy, Daniel Perry, you had the capability to restrain this man. Other people in the car are scared. People are fearing violence against them. You have the capability to restrain this man. Wouldn't you do it? Sadly, chokeholds have become the equivalent of modern-day lynching. The case is, I would stand by in case he got violent, not a chokehold. I hear that. I don't know, like, so you stand by, and then he pulls out then he, punches somebody on the train, and now you have. I don't know. I agree that probably a chokehold was not the best. And I agree that chokeholds are not good. And that's why I said I don't think police or medical professionals should use chokeholds in any situation. And I hear what people are saying. He's a Marine. But I don't think a Marine is trained in that sense. Marines are not trained in the sense of restraint and calming down situations. They're warriors. He was unarmed. Yeah, but how would Daniel Penny have known that ahead of time? Sam, even if Penny did not want to kill him, he did. Don't you think he should have some accountability? I mean, I don't want to be, again, one of the issue with a lot of these politicians and media personalities is they are the judge, jury, and executioner in all these cases, and they know everything. And I don't know. I'd have to sit down and I'd have to be a juror and spend every day listening before I could come to a full analysis, or certainly any sort of decision on what I would vote, either guilty or not guilty on this. I don't think I could say that sitting here watching a 10-minute video, you know? If they're going to be stepping up and restraining people, then maybe they should be trained to neutralize without killing. But that's such a complicated thing to do, to be trained. Like, your average person, even a Marine, is not going to be trained like that. Episodes of Bushwhacking says, I cannot believe we normalize a murder. I don't think it is fair to put him to a very harsh penalty, but getting away with it isn't fair. I don't disagree with that necessarily. Again, I don't know. It's, you know, I'm here speaking to people, but I also just have an issue with this sort of format, because it's like you have to jump to conclusions a lot of the time. And, you know, if you want to be a talking head, you have to say shit. And I think it's hard to come to a conclusion, especially on a complex case like this, for me just sitting here in my room, you know? And I feel like I've already said a bunch of stuff that I regret, you know what I mean? And I would take back upon learning more or learning, you know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know. I'm going to change the topic because I don't feel equipped to talk about this. Raul says, Sam, this is an evolving case. Please take caution when commenting live. Good point, Raul. No, I will not be commenting about drones. How do you feel about Bernie praising Elon and RFK? What? Some think Bernie is just trying to find common ground in an imperfect situation, but I think Bernie's too optimistic. Oh, I heard him say something like he agreed with RFK Jr. on certain aspects of food. What did he agree with Elon on? I'm not sure. Sammy put the Flow trailer. Oh, I did see Flow, the movie. That shit was the best movie I've seen this year. It was like honestly a cinematic masterpiece. If you haven't seen this, go see this. I'm not going to put on the trailer because they often claim trailers. But I love this movie. What did Bernie say about Elon?
You recently tweeted about Elon Musk in support of him, suggesting that we should curb defense spending. What's the play here? This is someone who you've criticized previously. Do you see a potential partner in him?
In some areas, yes. In many areas, no. I mean, I think many of the things he did during this campaign were really ugly. On the other hand, he's a very smart guy. And if he goes out and says that the Pentagon has not been able to go through an independent audit, which is true for the last 7 years, that there's enormous waste in the Pentagon.
I don't have any issue with Bernie agreeing with a policy position of Elon Musk. I do kind of like him being like, he's a very smart guy, you know, like that shit. It's like, and yeah, he did some bad stuff. It's like, dude, he did some really bad stuff. Like, you want to say you agree with his policy, that's fine, but like end it there, you know?
It's absolutely right. Of course there is. I brought forth amendments over the years to cut Pentagon spending by 10%, which would still leave us, by far, with the strongest military in the world. So we need a strong military, but we don't need all the kind of the waste and the profiteering and the fraud that exists in the Pentagon right now. So if somebody on the other side has a good idea, sure, we'll work with them.
I mean, I don't disagree with that sentiment. Like, someone on the other side has a good idea, we'll work with them. And, you know, he agrees with them. I don't have any issue with that necessarily. The other, like, praisey things he did, I didn't love, but... Defense spending is not the same as government spending, actually. They have their own funding. Is that true? I mean, even if they have their own spending, it still comes from the government, right? Or no? Why are conservatives so obsessed with trans? Because it's an issue. Like, remember we watched that video where that guy said he liked Noam because of traditional family values and stuff like that? It's because it helps feed their base the culture war stuff that they care about, obviously. And that's why, because they know it works with their electorate, and they know it helps them get elected, and they don't care if that means throwing trans people under the bus, obviously. The DoD and DHS are the only departments with unlimited spending due to emergencies and unpredictability. They have their own leagues. AOC made a post that actually called out Musk more harshly. She seems to see through him more than Bernie. Yeah. It seems to me that lately Bernie's been a little bit more willing to cozy up to more right-wing folks. I don't know why that is. Maybe because he feels like the Democrats have never treated him right. Maybe because he just wants to be as his tenure's coming down, remembered as a politician who was liked by all, you know. I don't know. AOC still has more fight left in her. She's still got, her whole career ahead. She's more calculated in her praise or discussion of more right-wing figures, I think. Could Pelosi have won if she was the Democratic nominee? Hell no. Hey, Sam, you should discuss alternative voting methods such as star and ranked choice voting with your dad. Yeah, that's a good idea. Pelosi would have gotten 90% of the Italian vote. That's funny. Did you see Steve Bannon's new comments on rounding up and arresting media and YouTubers? I did not. I don't really listen to what Steve Bannon has to say, and I don't know, maybe you could argue, well, but he has influence, he has the ear of the president. I don't know if he does. Do I watch anime? Not really. All right, I think I've been going for more than an hour now. I'm starting to get tired and hungry. I guess I'll just leave you. Like, I don't know. I like doing lives. I like coming here and chatting. Sometimes I get discouraged because, like, this whole Daniel Penny thing, it's like, I'm very much of the belief that the world is 1,000 shades of gray. And sometimes this format forces me and just everybody into coming to conclusions quickly. And I feel like I said things that too quickly, or I didn't think through them enough. So it's just something I'm thinking about right now. It's like, everybody wants your opinion on this and this and this and what's in the news. And it's like, I don't know if that's how we're meant to discuss things. I don't know if that's how discourse is meant to be had. It's just something I'm thinking about. So I apologize if I didn't discuss all this in a thoughtful manner, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I don't know, but then again, I like being live. I like talking to people. So I don't know. I have to find a balance of what I want my content to be. Because like when I started watching that, I was kind of like, when people were asking about it, I was kind of like, don't even start. And then I started, and I was like, well, I started. I might as well just keep going. And that's why I haven't commented in like detail about stuff about like the Luigi Mangione stuff. I try to like stay away from like super of the moment hyper debated things because of that. But that's what everyone wants to hear, That's why I like talking more generally about politics and discussing more generally about, social, economic policy or political philosophy or things like that. I don't know. Sorry, I'm just talking out loud. Good night.